What I would like to talk about this afternoon is on human element and seafarer resilience. A little bit from our experience as a club, what it is that we see happening. What I would like to start with is a small little case study. This was quite some time ago, a ship on the Great Lakes who ran aground quite badly. What happened? They were under pilotage. They had the usual people on the bridge. At some point there was an electrician which was also there who was making a repair to the rudder angle indicator. The lights of the rudder angle were not working, and in the evening they had to go through the locks, and the master knew that the pilot there was quite difficult about the locks of the rudder angle being functional. So he asked the electrician to make sure that the lights were working. The day before, that same electrician, when the ship was at anchor, repaired one of the two rudder angle lights, the one on the port side. This time, when the ship was sailing, he wanted to repair the second one. He did the exact same thing as he did the day before. He removed the fuse from the rudder angle light. Sorry, not the rudder angle, the RPM indicator, sorry. So he wanted to repair the RPM indicator. By removing the fuse from the RPM indicator, unknowingly to him, he also removed the power to the rudder angle indicator. Of course, the day before when he did that, there was no issue because the ship was at anchor. Today, this time when he did it, there was a problem. And suddenly the helmsman was saying, no steering. There was a lot of communication that went on between the pilot and the master. We could hear it on the VDR. Nothing could be done, and nobody had the sense to properly check that it was the rudder that failed. They all assumed they had no rudder, even though the rudder was working perfectly fine, and it was only the indicator that was not working. The ship ran aground quite badly. I know you are going to say that I shouldn't be comparing this with the aviation industry, but I am. The Hudson River, where the pilot landed on the river. BA-38, where the pilot managed to just miss one of the main indicators, and he landed his plane reasonably safe just short of the runway. In both cases, the pilots used the experience that they had built up in the simulator to try and resolve the problem that they had. The only error the guy on flight 38 made was that he used the wrong call sign for his plane. And because of the training that he had, he reverted to using the call sign of the simulator. So for me, the message there is, it goes to show how important training is. How much, if you keep drilling in the same scenario into people, how then they instinctively will be able to resolve a situation. And yes, I very much know that there are a lot of differences between planes and ships. There's a lot more standardization on planes. They only have 2 manufacturers. They don't need to deal with I don't know how many different ACDIS systems we have, or how many different, this morning we were talking about ballast water or sulfur scrubbers. They don't need to deal with all those differences. It's all standardized. I'm not disputing that. My point is the importance of the training that these guys have. This is the last slide, I promise, on aviation. After that, I will go back to the ships. This is just a clear fact. Ever since the aviation started introducing simulator training and regular requirements for refreshing of that training, the incident record has gone down. We know from the maritime side that we have learned from the aviation because that's where we took our bridge resource management from. That's where they did it first, we then implemented it. So what is it that I want to say? A few examples that I would like to give for me that in my opinion or as a club's opinion are important to try and improve in organizations. How can you make the seafarers with the equipment that we currently have, how can you make them more resilient? How can you make sure that they are able to deal with a rudder light indicator that is not working? I will touch on three things: training, drills, secondly, the expertise that seafarers have, and lastly, on the organization. Now, quite a few of the things that I want to mention actually in one way or another have been said already this morning. Being in a club, we have the joy of seeing all the things that go wrong with shipping. We see all the claims happening. We see all the investigation reports. And we do a lot of investigation ourselves. So call me pessimistic, but yes, I do see it from the negative side sometimes. Our view when we go through all these incident reports is that the crew these days are just not sufficiently experienced anymore. They are not expert at what they are doing. And I'm not questioning competency here. Well, I am, but sorry. No, I'm not questioning competency. I will stay away from what a flag state authority is. All of the seafarers, yes, they have their certificate of competency. So I won't touch on that. I will question a little bit the quality of the training they received in order to get those certificates. But they have the certificates, which means they've passed the examination. But that's only being competent. It doesn't end there. After competency, you still have a long road to go before you are expert at what it is that you are doing on board. With the global, the way the world is, I guess, with all the savings that are going on in shipping, where is it that you can most easily make a saving? It's not on your P&I insurance. You'll have to pay us or you're not going to get anywhere. So you'll skimp on other things, which can be the crew, which can be the training. Similarly, you have the lack of seafarers in general, which means you're promoting people a lot faster these days than some time ago. I don't say that's a bad thing. I'm just saying sometimes they do get promoted too fast, and they are not sufficiently experienced at what they should be knowing. I need to go faster because the lady is going to start coming soon here to me. I talked about this. A few practical examples, just quickly going through these three items. Drills. Oh, yeah. I really would like drills to be a lot more realistic on board of ships. Seriously, when I go on board of ships, and that is, of course, the problem with these conferences, because those ships that I see this on, those owners are not on these conferences. Very often, I go on board of a ship, I'll look at a drill report. It doesn't matter whether it's an enclosed space, whether it's a firefighting drill. They are copy-paste exercises. They can lower the lifeboat and raise it in exactly the same time. They even start the same, they'll end at the same time. They're really beautiful, how good that they are. You ask them to explain it to you, forget it, they won't know how to do it. So please, can we make drills more realistic? Now, I'm not saying that in order to get a realistic fire drill, you're going to have to start a fire on your ship. Don't quote me wrongly, please. That's not what I want. But make the drills realistic. Do these guys that are on your emergency roster, are they really the best for that role? You will always have, okay, captain is in command. My timer, yeah. Captain is in command, fine, that's not an issue. But it'll always be the chief officer who is in charge of the first squad. It'll always be the second mate who is in charge of the hospital. It'll always be the third mate who is in charge of boundary cooling. Who says that that chief mate is happy to be in a fire suit at 5 meters from a burning fire? It might well be that the third mate is better suited. So have a thought when you are making the muster lists that those people are. Yes, I know it's a lot more work for you, but it might be more effective. I think I skipped. No, okay. Lifeboats. I think lifeboats is another issue where we have too many manufacturers and not enough standardization, which basically results in crew not being able to properly operate it, which does, sadly enough, at the moment result in lifeboats killing more people than that they save. It doesn't need to be that way if they properly understand how it works, if they are being trained, if they are being taught properly. There's quite some companies that have mock-up rigs which can be put onto a bulkhead, which are a really good way of explaining to crew how the hooks are working. On the bridge, I think there is a lot more that can be done in the way of having realistic training on a bridge. And I'm not necessarily talking about the man overboard drills or the steering gear failure drills, but when you are on the bridge, as a captain, why not just start sending out little queries to your crew? Ask them, okay, now your GPS is failing. What are you going to do? Test them. And sadly enough, the way that the world is at the moment, if you are going into the Persian Gulf, or if you are going in West Africa, there is a high chance that your GPS is not going to be accurate. Does your crew really know how to deal with it? Or do they just know on paper how to do so? Make them go through the tests. There's a lot of similar things that can be done. I'm at 13 minutes. Okay, I'm going to end soon. Don't scare me. On the organizational side, and I think this was touched on quite well by a number of speakers this morning, so I don't need to say too much on this. There is no point in trying to get your crew to do better things, to perform better, if it's not properly supported from an organizational perspective. It's very much what was said earlier, please walk the talk. Dealing with stress, just one example. How do you want your master to have less stress if 5 minutes after departure from the berth, you're screaming at him and asking for the departure message? Leave the bloody guy alone. He'll send his departure message when he's ready. And you know anyway that they have departed because the agent will tell you. There's no point you asking the captain for it. And there's a lot of different kind of examples that way where the office is putting a lot of stress onto the ships. Thank you for the good communication that we have. It never used to be that way. I'm not talking about fatigue. Complacency. If you want your crew to fill in proper checklists, if you want them to follow the ISM that you have, please make it a user-friendly ISM. If your ISM is 2 meters long, forget about the crew trying to read it. They won't be bothered. If your checklists are overkill and they are too long, they are not going to go through the checklist and they'll just simply tick off the boxes. Make it user-friendly, make it ship-specific. Quite often I go on board of ships and I find that a bow thruster has been tested and was ready for departure when there isn't any. But it was ready. I will stop. This is my conclusion. So this is basically what I was saying. I think there is an issue with with expertise and experience on board. I think training needs to be done a lot more realistic than what it is currently being done. And there needs to be more walk the talk, to say it in what was said this morning, from an organizational perspective. Thank you.